What's up, guys? Just got back from a little walk around the block, trying to exercise again and hit the ground running. No pun intended, but I want to lose more poundage before the new year starts, so just diving back into it deep. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. This video is going to be a story time. I'm in the mood to tell a story of something that happened to me just a couple days ago, and it was kind of a rude awakening for me. It's something that I've talked about before, or touched upon before in previous videos. But I got a speeding ticket, and that is no fun, and it is just a reminder of having to drive safe. And I wanted to tell my quick story and maybe get a message out there to everyone watching who drives, but more importantly to some of the younger viewers who are just getting into driving or haven't been driving for too long. So I take a sip of water here because I'm very tired and thirsty, and then we'll get into the story. So a couple days ago, I was visiting my family, and it's quite a bit of a drive to go see my family, and it's mostly highway miles, a couple back roads and stuff too. But on the highway, generally speaking, I speed, and it's something that when I was single, and again I've touched upon this before, but for people who haven't heard those videos or listened to me talk about this, when I was younger I had like road rage, you know. I was never proud of it, but something in me, a part of me, it was kind of dumb. It was like a macho thing. It was a I don't know, it was a competitive thing, you know. I felt like when I was driving the car I wanted to be in charge, and I was a very aggressive driver. You know, if someone did something on the road I didn't like, I didn't mess with them. I didn't purposely, like, you know, try to make them crash or anything like that, but you know, I'd get on that pedal. You know, someone did something I didn't like, I'd zip past them, you know, 90, 100 miles an hour. I've raced people, you know, on the road. I've people who've messed with me, I've messed back with them. It's something I'm very, very embarrassed about, to be honest. It's not cool to mess with people on the road. It is not something that anyone truly wins anything. You know, if you get into a little match with someone and you zip past them, you win the race, who cares? Really, no one's really winning. You're a total loser if you're putting other people in danger on the road. And like I said, I've done that in the past, not thinking about other people, you know, thinking about myself. It's a very selfish thing to have road rage and to do stuff like that on the road, because you share the roadway with everyone around you. There's senior citizens driving, there's young kids that are driving, there's women with kids in the car, I mean, and just, you know, regular old men too. There's nothing wrong with just a guy driving by himself. He doesn't deserve to be put in danger either. But there's a responsibility you have when you're behind the wheel, and it's extremely dangerous to drive recklessly. And so when I was, you know, single, yeah, I did all that stuff, not proud of it. Then I started dating my now wife, and after being married, she's kind of calmed me down, because when she was in the car, she's not comfortable with me doing all these different things, and I understand that totally. Especially as a passenger, not being in control, it's a very uneasy feeling. I've been that passenger before. I've been in cars where someone's driving crappy, and I'm just like, I'm a nervous wreck, you know, and it's out of my control, and it really bothers me. So for my own safety, for my wife's safety, I drove a lot better for a long time. And I was not reckless anymore, and I didn't have any road rage anymore. But what I would still do is every now and again I'd have a heavy foot, you know, and driving somewhere, if it's a longer distance trip, you know, on average, instead of doing 65 on the highway, I'd be driving 75, you know, sometimes 80. And then occasionally she'd, you know, realize that I'm kind of speeding, and she'd tell me to slow down. And, oh yeah, no, it's no problem, I would slow down or whatever. But I took risks, and I'm not proud of it. I think it stinks, to be honest, that I was just selfish enough to do that. Number one, you never get anywhere faster. You don't save time by speeding. Okay, it's ridiculous. If you're late to something, you should really just prepare better next time, you know. Leave earlier if you're going to be driving, you know, slowly. But what my main problem was this situation, this scenario. I'm driving normal, doing the speed limit, or in and about 65, 70, something like that on the highway. And then I get behind someone who's super slow. So I say, all right, I'm going to pass him. And I get in the fast lane, you know, and I always use my blinkers and everything. I don't just weave in and out of traffic, although I've done that too, which I'm not proud of. Someone upsets me or something, I'm just kind of zipping through just to get away from them. And that's a huge excuse a lot of people make, is like, oh, I just want to get away from this guy. This guy is dangerous, you know. I don't like how he's driving. He might be drunk. I got to get away from him. I've used that excuse countless times. I don't like how he's driving. So that gives me the excuse to pass them, right? Now, normal people, this guy's driving 65, you want to go 70, you're behind him. You know, you put your blinker on, get in the fast lane, and maybe you do, 68, and you slowly pass them, right? And then when they're far enough from you, you look in your rearview mirror, you see that you have plenty of distance, you put your blinker on, you calmly get back in the other lane, and you don't cut them off. Don't just zip in front of them. So many people do that to me on the road, and it's so frustrating. I have so many different driving pet peeves just drive me insane. People not using the blinker, cutting you off, riding your tail. I mean, you name it. It bothers me. But I never would do that, right? I get behind someone, they're super slow. Or even worse is that someone comes up doing 100 miles an hour, then they slow down. Now they're like going as fast as you, and then they cut over. And they just sit in front of you going slow. I don't understand. You wanted to go fast, now you want to go slow. Like I always thought, like, all right, there's people who like to drive a little bit faster, just stay that speed. But there's a lot of people out there that, like, 1 minute they're doing 90 and then they drop down to like 50. And I think a lot of times they're texting, they're distracted, whatever it is, but they do that constant, 50, 90, 50, 90. Make up your mind. You want to drive slow or you want to drive fast? But anyway, so in that scenario, I go, okay, I'm going to pass this guy, and it's not a big deal for normal people, but not for me. For me, I'd be like, zzz, and I'd have to pass him doing 90. You know what I mean? It's like, it was never like a nice smooth transition for me before, and I'd have to, I got to get away from this guy, he's bugging me, and zzz, and I'm off, and by the time I get in front of him, I'm already doing 90. And then I get back in the slow lane. I try to use cruise control as much as possible, but unfortunately, I go through some city areas and, highway areas that are by cities, so there's a lot more traffic. I can't sit with cruise control when there's that much traffic. I get lucky in some parts of my different travels. I got pretty much open highway for a while, so I can put cruise control on and not worry about it and kind of steady my speeds. But long story short, I get behind this guy who cut me off, no blinker, again, zipped up from the fast lane. I'm in the slow lane, and at this point I'm honestly doing 70, 72, something like that. Totally acceptable for where I live, because everywhere on the highways that I drive, everyone speeds. It's not an excuse. I'm not saying it's good. It's just the facts. 9 out of 10 people are not driving the speed limit. Most people drive like 70, 75. That's a common speed. If you're driving 65, the actual limit, the most you're supposed to be driving, you're considered slow and dangerous, on these roads, these highways. And I kind of joke around a little bit, but when I'm talking to my wife, I say, Pennsylvania, 65 is not the limit. That's the minimum, because our highways around here, people are flying. But anyway, so this guy's coming up in the fast lane. I'm here just doing like 70, 72. He comes up, and then he just stops, or slows down. I don't know what he was doing, or she. I don't even know what the driver was. Could have been a woman. And they're kind of running next to me, which is not really a big deal. But then at some point, they didn't like that I'm just next to me. So instead of just, driving faster and staying in the fast lane or whatever and passing me normal, they didn't. They came up and they cut me over with no blinker. So, of course, I'm annoyed. And now, after they cut me over, we're driving for about 20 or 30 seconds, and they start slowing down. And it's probably just them not paying attention, whatever it was. So I said, all right, fine. And I'm going to pass them. So I put my blinker on, got in the fast lane, and punched it. Zip right past them. And as I'm passing them, I got up to like 80, 81. That's what I was clocked in at, was 81. And I see the median, because again, where I live, it's mostly woods and stuff like that. So it'll be like a heavy patch of woods and then one little cutoff where the cops will sit, And as I'm passing, I just happen to glance off to my side, and I see a squad car sitting there, like an SUV. And no way. So I got in front of the guy, put my blinker back on, safely got in the passenger side, but I'm staring at my rear view with my fingers crossed, and there he comes. He starts pulling out. I'm like, oh man. I know he's pulling out for me. So now I just dropped down to like 60, 65 miles an hour, and he's following me for like, 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm watching the rear view, and I'm just waiting for it to happen, hoping that it won't, but I know it will. And boom, the lights go on. Oh, all right, I'm getting pulled over. I know I'm speeding. This stinks. Now, when you are getting pulled over, you should get over as safely as possible. Don't take the cops on a ride, okay, because that just annoys them. I've had great success with every time I've ever been pulled over with making the officer happy by pulling over right away, okay? So you get over as safe as you can, got over, put my flashers on, or your hazard lights, as some people know them. And so my hazard lights are on, shut the car off all the way, but before you do that, if you have automatic windows, roll your windows down, at least the front two. I roll them all the way down. I don't know which side he's approaching me on. It is nighttime, so what I always do on nighttime if I get pulled over, it's only happened a couple times, but I put in my cabin lights, so my lights go on in the car, and my hands go on the wheel. All right, very simple. So both hands on the steering wheel, windows down, you know, cabin light on, car off with the hazard lights on. So this is a state trooper, and the state troopers by they don't mess around. You know what I mean? Local cops are like, you know, I don't know, I'm not gonna say they don't do the job well or whatever, but the stateies, they don't let you go. You know, they give you a ticket. If they're pulling you, they're spending time pulling you over, there's no warning. You're gonna get a ticket. Cop comes up, and mind you, recently in the news, 2 separate occasions somewhat in my area, no, not really my direct area, but 2 separate situations where someone got pulled over and shot state troopers. So these state troopers are like really on alert. Okay, this guy came up and he was hugging the car, and I'm pretty sure he had his hand on his pistol just because he didn't know. It's nighttime, pulling over this black car, you know, who knows. He's hugging the car, like he's right against it. And his head's like barely at the window. He presented himself like back here. I couldn't even really see him. I turned my head, I can barely make out his hat. Because he's ready for anything, especially, like I said, these news stories. He's very on edge. Asked for license, registration, insurance, and so I said to him verbally, okay, well, my information's in the glove box, my wallet's in my back pocket. Is it okay if I grab that? He said, yep, absolutely. His exact words were, okay. He didn't say absolutely. Now at this point, I have 2 firearms on me. I have my Glock 19, which I'm carrying, spare mag in my pocket, and I also happen to have my Kel-Tec on the waistband, because in visiting my parents, I didn't know, with wardrobe changing, sometimes if I'm just wearing like sweatpants or something, instead of having the Glock, because I don't have, I can't support that weight, I'll have the little Kel-Tec on the waistband. So in leaving my, and this is on the way home, by the way, from my parents' house, so I had both guns on me, and let me just stop for a second to talk to all my concealed carry viewers. Something I did when I first started carrying, when I got pulled over, when I handed my license to the officer, I also handed my concealed carry permit. It's just, card. I don't know other states what they do, but it's a little laminated card, just like a license. And that was basically to let the officer know that I do have a firearm in the vehicle or on my person. I don't do that anymore. Twice I've gotten pulled over when I started carrying a gun. And it's like it's a nerve-wracking thing because it's new to you. If you've never carried a gun before, all of a sudden you're carrying a gun, you get pulled over, you're like, okay, I got a gun. What if the cop sees it? What scenarios are going to play out here? And there are definitely do's and don'ts when you're carrying a firearm and you're communicating with police officers, specifically if you are pulled over for a traffic violation or something. You're in your car, you're armed, and they're communicating with you. If you're ever asked to get out of the vehicle, that's when you say, and I'm sure there's proper ways to handle this, because you don't want to say, I have a gun. That will freak the cop out and probably get you shot. Don't just say, hey, I have a gun while you're holding the wheel. Don't ever say that. If you were asked to get out of the vehicle, which there's more problems than just getting a speeding ticket at that point, that's when you could say, officer, I just want to let you know that I have the right to carry a firearm. And again, keep your hands present, keep them on the wheel so you can see what's going on. I do have a firearm in the vehicle. How would you like me to approach? Whatever. So this way, you're not just getting out and he sees a thing and maybe there's some panic there or whatever. Never touch your firearm if you're getting pulled over. Like, that's for a whole different video, do's and don'ts. And I'm sure there are plenty of videos on YouTube on that stuff. So I highly recommend watching those. But the point is, when I originally started carrying a gun, it was more in my mind of like, this is new and everything. So I'd hand the permit with my license to the officer. Twice I got pulled over with firearms in the car. The first time it was on my side, out of view from the police officer. I handed him the car and he said, why are you handing me this? And I said, well, I have a firearm in the vehicle. It's on my person. I don't want you to see it and then react poorly. My exact words. He said, I appreciate that, but that's not necessary. And he gave me the card back. Totally cool situation. The second time when the cop came up, I had my, it was my Glock, I think it was the Glock 36 back then, and it was in my cup holder. Loaded, just sitting in the cup holder in plain view. And at the time, I think I had the Kel-Tec on my person too. I don't know, but I remember I had the Glock 36 in the cup holder, and hands were on the wheels. Now, that's not a good situation, you know. When the officer came up, he didn't even notice it. Hands were on the wheels, and while the hands were on the wheels, I said to him, officer, when he, you know, license, registration, all that stuff, but still holding the wheel, I told him, you know, I have a firearm, legal firearm in the vehicle. It's in the cup holder. I don't want to grab my information and pass over it. I want you to be very aware of that. My exact words to him, very similar to that. And he said, okay, I acknowledge that it's there. He said, it's not a problem. He said, as long as you don't, his exact words, as long as you don't grab it, we don't have a problem here. Or as long as you don't touch it, something along those lines. So I said, okay, cool, and I got my information. That was fine. That was a great interaction with this particular police officer. I guarantee you, if you did that same thing with 10 different cops, one of them might have shot you. I really have no idea. I don't recommend that situation. But at the same time, when I got pulled over, the last thing I wanted to do was grab my firearm and try to hide it in the car or even be touching it. The second lights go on, don't be touching a firearm, okay? So that's why that situation happened to occur. I was driving somewhere. I think I had the holster on, but it was uncomfortable in the holster. Whatever it was, I had the firearm literally in the cup holder in plain view. So the reason I bring all this stuff up is in both situations, not only did the cop not care that I had a firearm in the vehicle, but I think the second time he was a little nervous about it, even me mentioning it. So it's one of those things, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. Don't even mention. I personally, maybe I shouldn't tell you what to do or suggest what you do, but for me, in this situation and future situations, as long as you can't see the firearm, you don't need to know I have it. It's none of your business. By handing him my license with my carry permit, it's like, it kind of confuses cops. Like, what does this mean to me? Are you planning on taking it out? If anything, it makes them start thinking about the fact you have a gun and why you tell me you have a gun. You know what I mean? So I didn't touch that, even though I had two pistols right next to me. It was out of his view, so I never messed with it, never mentioned it. He was thankful that I pulled over right away. He even mentioned that. Thank you for getting over right away. We don't like chasing people, his exact words. He told me he clocked me in doing 81 on this highway, which is 65. He was very, very nice about the situation, and he wrote the ticket. It's a speeding ticket, but he put down that I was doing 70 in a 65. Okay, so it's no points or anything, and it was the least of the fines. Now, this is a separate little rant. I understand when you get pulled over, money for tickets and violations go to the state. It's how the state makes more money. There's tons of ways how the state makes money. This is one of them. The actual fine for speeding was $45. By the time all the other fees, at the end of the day, I paid $161 for this speeding ticket. There was like a $45 fee for EMS. And how I understand that is I had to pay because of the possibility that they would have to call an ambulance and assist me if I were handicapped and needed to be removed from the car. That blows my mind. I don't know. There's a bunch of BS fees that just add up. And then, of course, I paid it online. I paid it the next day because I wanted to pay it right away. I have no issues with that whatsoever. Pleaded guilty, no contest or whatever. I don't want to show up at court and try to fight that. Some people do. Some people try to fight that kind of stuff. I don't have the time for that. And then there was another fee for paying it online. So $161. Right now, during the holiday season, most people are broke. You're spending all your money on gifts for family and stuff, and if people are doing events. It's not a great time financially. It was such a waste of money to throw. Not in a position right now to be throwing away $161 on a dumb mistake like speeding. Now, this for me was like the last awakening. It was the last like punch in the gut. What are you doing, Jeff? That's kind of how I felt. And of course, my wife, she's yelling at me because it's dumb. We're wasting money. Why are you speeding? I tell you not to speed all the time. So I'm getting an earful, and I have nothing to say. It's not an argument. It's more of a speech because what am I going to argue? I was wrong. I knew I was wrong. In my particular relationship with my wife, when I know I'm wrong with something, I don't argue. If I feel differently, I do argue. I am a man. I am stubborn sometimes, and sometimes I do argue even though I know I'm wrong. It's just, I don't know, I guess something men do. But yeah, I felt embarrassed by the situation. I felt dumb. I felt felt like I failed. I failed myself. I failed my wife in this particular situation because she warned me. She gave me a big "I told you so." And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I can't argue with that. But I threw away money. But above all, I think it was good that I got the ticket, because it was like the last strike for me. It was the last, you messed up. I think, first of all, every human being makes mistakes. No one's perfect. We all make mistakes. I feel the difference between a good person and a bad person, or at least a smart person and a dumb person, is the good/smart people don't make the same mistakes over and over and over again. You learn from your mistakes. You better yourself. If you do something wrong and you pay those repercussions for that, you don't do it again. The dumb people and the bad people keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And I don't want to be that person. I've made this mistake before. I've sped, I've gotten a ticket, I've drove, like your grandmother for the next couple weeks or whatever, but eventually kind of eased back into my bad habits. For me, this was the last strike. This was my last free pass, because for the rest of the night, I was so upset at myself for taking the chance, and that's what it was. It was taking a chance. I got lucky in paying $161 for this mistake. I could have paid with my life. I could have paid with my, damage to the car, to my wife. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how I would live through something like that. One of my mistakes causing us to crash and hurting either myself, my wife, or someone else, for that matter. Can't afford to get into an accident, can't afford any of us to get hurt. And I am embarrassed that I took that chance. Now, when taking those chances, and a lot of people feel this way, when you're zipping past someone or you're doing this or that, in your mind, you're not thinking, hey, I'm taking a chance right now, because you wouldn't be doing it. You think that you're in control. And sometimes you are in control, but you can't control what other people do. If you're passing someone, doing 80, 90 miles an hour, and they see you in the mirror and freak out and jerk the wheel a little bit, that could be the difference between you dying that day or living that day. So as much as you think you're in control, you don't control what people around you do. And a lot of those chances that I take, it only worked out all these different times is because other people followed, the law and staying in their lines or doing this or doing that. They've allowed me to make these, take these chances, really. And honestly, I've been lucky. I've done so many risky things in the car, and it's embarrassing to me. I don't know what it is. It's so dumb. But I'm over it. I'm over it. I've grown. I'm an adult now. I don't care if people want to pass me. They want to pass me, that's fine, because there are always going to be people that are going to be just like that. There's always going to be that young kid, or even just the older guy or older woman or whatever. It takes all walks of life, by the way. I've, speaking of racing people, I've gotten into little feuds with everywhere from, like, a 55-year-old dude to an old lady to a young girl. When I was growing up, it used to be like the only people driving horribly on the road were people who were drunk and young boys with testosterone. They like, engines, and they want to go fast, and that's all it was. Today's day and age, it seems like it's anyone and everyone. I remember getting into a race with someone years ago. This was when I was like, I don't know, it's got to have been at least 7 or 8 years ago now. But it was like what happened was someone passed me and they almost clipped me. They came really close and I got upset. So I sped up with them, and now we're like kind of racing, whatever. And I got my car up to 105, 110 miles an hour, and they still were ahead of me. And I was really, really like stubborn about it, and I wanted to see who was driving. When they finally gave up and they slowed down a little bit, it was like a 17-year-old girl with a friend. 2 girls. They looked 12 to me, but they had to have obviously been like 16, 17 at least. And I was like blown away by that. I couldn't believe it. So reckless driving has there's no creed. It's this color person, it's this age person, it's male, female, whatever. Anyone and everyone has the possibility of being a jerk on the road. Okay, so it's not just the teenage boys that are driving like crap, So yeah, it's just, for me, it was an awakening. It was another wake-up call, but I feel like the last wake-up call. I can't take any more chances. I just can't do it. And like I said, I feel embarrassed by the whole thing. I feel dumb that I have taken these chances. And I wanted to make this video to tell you guys, number one, there's nothing cool about, racing each other. Especially most time, the kids that are racing don't even have cool cars. You're driving your mother's, Ford Escort or something. It's not like you got some souped up 500 horsepower car. There's plenty of those people that are racing, but that's what they do. That's a whole separate thing. You know what I'm saying? And generally speaking, the car guy who has the souped up car, they're usually, believe it or not, a little bit more respectful. It's the racer that, in his piece of crap that's taking chances on the road and putting everyone in danger, The kids that want to go out and drag race, they generally, from my experience anyway, what I've seen in real life, they generally do that stuff on the side. They don't endanger too many people on the main road. But anyway, that is nor here or there. I wanted to really get this message out, especially to the younger viewers. If you haven't gotten your license yet and you're just about to drive, or if you're new to driving, you've only been driving like a year or two, a couple of years, I'm telling you, it's never, ever worth it to take that chance. And it's so easy to get frustrated and upset by other people's actions and then to react, with road rage or to react negatively, in your car. You have to respect your vehicles. You have to respect the fact that you are in a giant weapon. Thousands of pounds of steel and fuel going, 60, 70, 80 plus miles an hour. It is a disaster waiting to happen. I've learned my lesson dozens of times now. This is the last chance that I get. That's it for me. I'm driving safely. I'm respecting my vehicle. I'm respecting myself, my family, anyone who else is in the vehicle with me. I don't want to take any more chances, and I just wanted to tell you that. I wanted to tell you that because if one person out there watches this video and realizes that they were me and now they don't want to be, if you can watch this video and be warned by it and actually change how you drive, it's worth the time making the video. That's why I'm doing it. It's just, I don't know. People frustrate me. I've always said this before. I like people, but I don't like the public. There's individual people that I love that are just wonderful, awesome human beings. So many of you guys who communicate with me, wonderful people. But the masses, like in general, just people in general, horrible, disgusting animals. Just sheep, mindlessly. Oh God, I could probably do a whole nother video just how I don't like the human race. But individuals here and there, I love. Wonderful, thoughtful, selfless people out there. So many of them. But it's weird because when you're on the road and you're driving, your life is in everyone around your hands. I mean, I say this all the time too. Think about just driving to work or just driving to school or whatever. The hundreds, if not thousands of cars that are passing you. It only takes one of those people that's feeling suicidal or something to just go meh with their wheel and your life's over. That's it. Or your life changes forever. It's amazing to me. And obviously there's accidents every day. But generally speaking, the majority of people driving, they follow the law, they follow the rules. They stay in their lane, they go a certain speed, they stop when they're supposed to, they go when they're supposed to, and it all works out. It's a very intricate system that just happens to work because most people are following the rules. Occasionally, when someone doesn't follow the rules, that's when disaster strikes, right? But that's it for me. I'm not going to endanger myself, my wife, anyone in my car. I'm not going to endanger anyone around me anymore. I just have to. I'm kind of relearning having a huge respect for driving, in my 30s now, and I have to do this again. My parents taught me this when I got my license, and I've gone through different phases in my life where, I drove fine for a while, and all of a sudden I'm driving like a jerk, and I've always been aggressive because I've always felt like, hey, if I'm the aggressor, I'm in control, and that's not necessarily the case. So that's all. Just sharing my story with you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the story, and like I said, hopefully if it helps anyone out there, it was worth spending the time telling you my story, because it is embarrassing. It's embarrassing getting speeding tickets. Nothing cool about that. I remember back in high school, people, oh yeah, I got a speeding ticket. Oh, that's cool, you went fast. Anyone can go fast, all right? And it doesn't mean you have a cool car either. The biggest jalopy piece of crap out there can probably still do 100 miles an hour. It might take you 25 seconds to get up to 100, but it doesn't make you cool. Speeding is not cool. It doesn't make you a race car driver. You're not in Fast and the Furious. So, yeah. I don't know. I guess that's just my message is it's never worth it. It's never, ever worth it. Don't speed. Don't drive recklessly. Don't have road rage. Because you never know who's around you. That one time you take a chance, and you take a chance with the wrong person, that can change your life forever. Or it can end it. So, that is my warning to every driver out there. That's it. So thank you very much for watching. I'd love to hear in the comments section your experiences, maybe an interesting story. I know you have a limited space to write a comment, but maybe just a quick comment on something you used to do that you don't do anymore, or hey, I got into an accident once because this person was doing this, or something like that, something relating to driving and being reckless. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. But yeah, this is it. This is just me admitting to being wrong, and it's hard to do that. It's hard to admit that you're wrong, and it's hard to just try to be a better person. Honestly, there's so many things that we're flawed as human beings, and to just say, you know what, I don't do this right, and it's not right, and it's hurting my ego, and it's hurting my, I don't know, I guess selfishness. I don't know any other way to describe it. Because all the times I've done all these different things, it was just a selfishness. It was just, in the moment, I wanted to beat that person. This person's being a jerk. No, I'm better. And it gets, in the whole thing. What do you win? You win nothing. At the very best case scenario, you're probably just beating on your car, which is not good. So, anyway, that is it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a wonderful, safe day. And try to think of this next time you're on the road.